Welcome to another episode of the So Not PC podcast / vlog with Rob Adamus. Actually, the third show that we're doing via video as opposed to the podcast that we used to do. There's something that keeps coming up a lot in the suggestions and the replies from everybody. And the one question that comes up all the time, it seems, is how do I convince someone who isn't yet awakened to Trudeau and the Liberal Party's tyranny and treasonous acts against Canadians? How do I go about convincing somebody to wake up or change their leftist views? Well, we're talking about human nature here. So for most of us who've been talking about this for a long time, I think that we've come from a place where we just feel like that we're so right that we were just supposed to kind of hammer them and go, why do you think that way? Well, we can't come from a conflicting place. I believe that we really need to come from a place where we're truly educating people. And my personal background with this seems to indicate that maybe the way that we need to go about this is more conversational, in the sense that we should ask this individual or individuals that we're around, ask them the question, why do you think the way that you do? Was that something that you came across with information? Or was it something that you heard that created that opinion within you? And then let them answer. Once you've got that answer, at least you know where the person is coming from. And that opens the door to potential change. Now we know there are some people that will never change, okay? So don't beat your head against the wall at the idea that you're going to change everybody, because some people are good in their limited bubble, okay? So move on from those types of situations. But there are people out there who want to learn. The millennial group, I find, is a classic group of individuals who want to learn. They don't know much about what's going on out there in Canada because mainstream media is not telling them anything but lies and propaganda, which for you, the viewers who've been tuning into this and other similar types of programs, will already know. But there are a lot of individuals, a lot of groups out there that still adhere to what they're being told on this mainstream lying propaganda machine. Elderly group tends to be one of those groups that has that. So again, once you get the answer from someone, then you have a point of reference in order to potentially help them with. So then ask them another question. Ask them, well, if you were provided factual evidence to the contrary of what you just spoke of, would you be open to listen to that and willing to change your opinion about that once I provide truth for you? And then let them answer, okay? This is just one of the things that we're all going through on social media, one-on-one situations, wherever we're at. And for us to progress with helping the country become more awakened, there are certain things that we're just going to have to take advantage of in order to help others, and there are things that we have to just leave alone because they will never help. So anyway, to kind of get into the gist of this particular episode, another subject that keeps coming up is, what are all the things that Trudeau has done? What's the Liberal Party done? I mean, his co-conspirators, all 182 of them, in order to create such a tyrannical hate of Canada situation? Well, I've got a long laundry list of things here. Now, literally, if we went through every last one of them, we'd be here for days going through this. So I'm not going to do that to you. Now, I'm going to start rolling through a lot of things here. Not only what Trudeau has personally done, but cabinet ministers and such that have done here. So stay with me, okay? I'm going to leave some things out here that probably a lot of people already know and would like to put out there because they're such big things, okay? All well and good. You can take those into your conversations with people and use them, okay? but I'm going to give you a list here that I've been given and I've gone through myself here. Okay? So, the Minister of Defense is guilty of public perjury, gross negligence causing a threat to national security, which is punishable by significant jail time. The Minister of Finance, Bill Morneau, was guilty of insider trading, a 10-year sentence. Nobody's been charged yet. Minister of Immigration, Ahmed Hassan, actively and quietly attempted to remove protections of FGM from the Canadian Citizenship Guide, which, had he succeeded, would have provided a lawful excuse under the current Canadian laws for practitioners of this crime on humanity to never face sentencing or punishment if they performed it here. That's domestic terror. Oh, by the way, Ahmed Hassan, who's from Somalia, he's a member of the Muslim Brotherhood terrorist group. Wonderfully nice guy. Now the Prime Minister, Mr. Justin Trudeau, degenerate to the world, laughing joke, is guilty of domestic terrorism as well, and more than we can count in treasonous crimes. One, according to Section 8301 to 8309 of the Criminal Code of Canada, any political leader in Canada who incites, endorses, supports, or forces any ideology upon the citizens of Canada is guilty of domestic terror. This is pretty much a daily occurrence with him. And again, no charges yet. Two, any citizen who actively sends money by donation or otherwise to any organization that has known affiliations to terrorists is committing domestic terror. Justin Trudeau has sent billions of our taxpayer dollars to terrorist-based countries. And if you go to social media, you can get a list of all those countries because it's almost a daily thing out there, thankfully. Now, to think of all the deals that he's completely blown, I'm just going to name off really quickly. The Asia Pacific deal, helicopter deal with the Philippines, Kinder Morgan and Energy East, blew the deal with China, blew the deal with Europe. He's blown every deal that's ever come across, so I could go into more countries, but there's no point in that. Oh, and he blew pot legalization, which is really what the Liberal Party was promoting as their main agenda. Okay, that's been a debacle since it came into effect, I believe, October 17th of last year. Oh, and he caved on NAFTA when, first of all, he doesn't know what NAFTA stands for, so he couldn't possibly speak to it. So, oh, and do we need to mention the fiasco at the southern border with all the illegal immigrants? The numbers are way, way above than what they're reporting. Okay, it's hundreds of thousands, not 25,000, hundreds of thousands. Okay, at the G7 summit, he pledged $400 million to education around the world with another $180 million to the Global Partnership for Education in Europe. None of this is going to fix our school systems here at home. Why are we supporting education in Europe? There's plenty of countries there that encompass Europe, right? Meanwhile, education costs are skyrocketing for our youth, making university too expensive to attend. Foreign students get first choice at university spots, and refugees, which in this case are illegal immigrants, get a free university education. And education on our own First Nations reserves is often substandard. Okay? Wrong. He pledged $241 million to family planning around the world, including a $300 million donation to two of my most favorite people on the planet, Bill and Hillary Clinton, their foundation, two of the most corrupt individuals that have ever walked the face of this planet. Oh yeah, he keeps nice company. Trudeau told Canadian veterans that they were asking for too much, but somehow found $33 million to build the Afghanistan Army new housing. To add to this, he lied to a young Kandahar war-disabled veteran right to his face in an Edmonton town hall meeting, I think roughly about a year ago or so, that the government doesn't have any money to give to the veterans. And then the next day gave $59.5 million of our dollars to the country of Burkina Faso. For most of you, you're going, where's Burkina Faso? That's over in Africa. Okay. He pledged $2.65 billion to climate change, which we know is a fraud, at the Commonwealth Leaders Summit, and now is trying to bully the provinces into new carbon taxes to pay for this pledge. Now, We know climate change is an absolute fraud. It's been proven over and over again by the scientists of the world, including the gentleman who began the Weather Channel, who is a very accomplished scientist. So, he tweeted to comedian Trevor Noah, "How about I give you $50 million for your global children's charity?" There are rules, okay, for giving that have to go through the House and all. And Trudeau, as I like to refer him to, simply wanted to impress a comedian. Pandering piece of shite? No. He pledged $650 million to sexual and reproductive health in Haiti, Africa, and the Middle East, wanting accessible abortions for women, while many women in our own country are left without a family doctor. Since when did abortions abroad become the Canadian taxpayer's responsibility? He pledged $50 million to Palestine for flood relief when New Brunswick had some of the worst flooding in decades this past spring. This money, by the way, will go straight to Hamas, the terrorist group. He pledged $840 million to Syria for humanitarian assistance when half the native reserves in our country don't have clean drinking water. This will go straight, by the way, to rebel forces, not to the people. He gave $10.5 million to a convicted terrorist, Omar Khadr, who was completely joyous about the fact that he killed the soldier, in a backroom deal that has led to another $30.8 million paid out to 3 others who say they were wrongfully detained in countries they fled in the first place. Travel back at your own risk, okay? Spent $4.5 billion on a pipeline, in this case Kinder Morgan, and now the courts have ruled it shut down because of requests by Canadian Indigenous chiefs. Now, Indigenous people have suggested Trudeau gift the pipeline, but recently Indigenous chiefs have shown an interest in buying the pipeline. I'm not sure where they'll get the money, though. Yes, replaces Canada's old F-18 fighter jets with Australia's old F-18s. Explain that to me, please. And of course, in all of his photo ops, he loves to wave to an empty tarmac while boarding the government plane, which he loves to do very often and take excessive amount of trips, more than Stephen Harper and all the prime ministers before him combined, on our taxpayer dime. Okay. All right. So we've been going through this whole yellow vest thing and the carbon tax and all the issues around what's been going on in this country for 3 years now. Now, one of the biggest things that has happened is the energy sector, oil and gas sectors in our country are on a daily basis, the projects have been given gigantic no's with these virtually impossible to adhere to regulations. Okay, and the amount of taxes on oil from Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Newfoundland. But funny enough, none of that applies to oil from Saudi Arabia. Okay, Canada is a self-sustaining country. We do not need to be importing oil, gas, anything of the sort from Saudi Arabia or anywhere else. Interestingly enough, Mr. President Trump has done a fabulous job in turning the U.S. into an exporter of oil and gas. That hasn't happened in decades. We've got that ability here with one of the largest reserves in the entire world. And the poor folks, tens of thousands, who've been out of jobs or lost their jobs, should be working right now. That's taxpayer dollars that are gone. Oh, by the way, Justin Trudeau has scared away over $80 billion in investment in this country. Yeah, that's a big number. Okay, let that resonate with everybody. So, Trudeau uses identity politics and then he complains about identity politics. Now, a lot of these terms that I'm saying out here, I'm sure a lot of you already know the definitions for it. But for those of you who don't or think that you do, I would suggest going into the definitions, because words like liberal conservative, right-wing, left-wing, all of these things have changed their definitions over the years from what their original definition is. So I would suggest highly, please go and seek this out. That's the mantra. Go do your own research. But we've got leftists who are claiming we're Nazis. They don't have a clue what that means, okay? Their ideologies align 100% with Nazis, okay? You can't fix stupid. So, another one of those many debacles on a daily basis for Mr. Trudeau. He forgot Alberta was actually a province. Okay? Yeah, they are. Right next door to BC. Wonderful people there. He called small business owners tax cheats while he lives off a family trust from an illegal offshore account run by the Bronfman family. You know, Seagram's, that name and such. They're known Canadian offshore tax cheats, by the way. Hand in glove. People who ask questions about money spent on illegal immigrants are called intolerant racists. Not in the definition of it at all. Okay? People who question that are called Canadian concerned citizens. Let's be logical. Let's understand what's real and what's not. Now, we have an equalization program, but Trudeau gives it half of it to one province, to Quebec. Now, I personally have nothing against Quebec. I have a lot of friends from there who live there or who used to live there. I love Quebec. But the equalization payments to just them, and Alberta, and all the troubles that they're having, still have to pay, what is it, like 1.5 billion to Quebec? That's not right, okay? So, Trudeau reinstated the transfer payments from Western and Eastern Canada without consultation, even though many Albertans are out of work. He says diversity is our greatest strength, but his divisiveness tears his country apart. See how that works? Lies, falsehoods. That's all he says. And he's, in his pre-election campaign, he's telling all of his MPs, oh, we're going to run a positive campaign. We're going to be so positive. Every single day, everything that comes out of his and their mouths are negative. All the information is there. Seek it out. It's everywhere. Okay? With every major and important trade partner that we have in the world, he screwed up trade relations with every last one of them. They laugh at him. He can't speak to any subject without mumbling through it and having zero knowledge about anything. That's not a leader. That's a guy who 20 plus years ago came out of university, which he failed, and his father had handed him the Katimavik project, $50 million. It was all political, in order for him to eventually become the rigged Prime Minister of Canada. Now do the research. There's plenty of information showing the 2015 election was rigged. His handler, George Soros, through the Tides Foundation, which is one of 200 plus organizations that he funds for hate and divisiveness around the world, pledged $6 million US. Now there's loopholes in the Canadian system that allows for endless offshore funding. And the smart machines, voting machines, those were used in order to switch votes in Trudeau's favor. For anybody who doesn't want to believe this, here's what I'm saying to everybody going back to the introduction of this show. Show people with facts, but do it in a learned way for them, not a conflicting way. Everybody in human nature, including me, if we're shown that we're wrong and somebody comes from a conflicting way, we get defensive. It's a natural preservation of our brain to do that. So we have to come in a way that really shows that we're a trusted friend, okay? That's how this has got to go. Because this is an educational transition for people. People have been lied to for a lot of years. I grew up with the CBC and CTV as the only two channels. And I thought what they were saying was the truth. And to find out years later, lies and propaganda machines, both of them funded by the Liberal Party and George Soros. It's an eye-opener. But this is what we're dealing with, and we can fight this. Don't think for 1 second we can't. So, a couple other items here. I could go on for days and days, like I said, with this. Here's another little blurb on the screen. Spent $8 million for a skating rink in Ottawa and then tore it down a few months later. That $8 million could have gone to the seniors, homeless, our people. There's 37 million Canadians here, and we have our problems as much as any other country. Why do we have billions of our dollars going to other countries that most have never even heard of to fund terrorism? That's what the ISIS reintegration has been all about. Setting up terrorist sleeper cells in Canada. They're not a voice for Canada. They want to kill people. That's who they are. It's an ideology, radicalized. And Justin Trudeau, for some reason, loves the radicalization of that ideology. Kind of tells you, what a narcissist and a soulless individual is all about. Now, as I did in another episode, I want to bring back to light something that he's a complete hypocrite on. He groped a young reporter in Creston, BC, 20 years ago. They tried to cover it up as best as they could. It was brought back to light last year. And you have MPs who, under the guise of sexual harassment, even just the allegation, have had to quit based upon his rules for sexual harassment. Yet, Justin Trudeau doesn't follow his own rules for sexual harassment. And I will tell you, that wasn't the only incident that he sexually harassed a woman. Okay, there's more out there. And students, when he was a part-time drama teacher, because he's been really lousy at being a teacher of anything, his resume sucks. As a prime minister, you and I could be better equipped for it. He just doesn't follow his own rules. He follows the globalist rules of turn a country into a welfare state run over by Islam. Islamists, military-age men, are the tools. They don't even realize that. Because globalist money men, they're the ones who fund all this in their palaces around the world, and they laugh all day. And they use puppets like Justin Trudeau and his bromance, Macron in France. So, I got to throw this one back out there because to me, again, this just speaks to the lack of education and the true stupidity of this individual. Justin Trudeau thinks Canada is 100 years old. It's going to be 152 this year. I would laugh more if I wasn't crying inside about all of this. Oh, one that really bothers me a lot. He increased the number of personal pronouns to 50. Last I looked, there's XX and XY chromosomes. So that, to me, speaks of he and she. For those of you who are going to be offended by that, I don't give a damn. Be offended, because I'm offended by that, 50 pronouns. No such thing. Not in the eyes of God. No way. Now, as we get near the end of this, Justin Trudeau is the only prime minister to ever be convicted of ethics violations. What did he do? He laughed that off. Refuses to repay taxpayers for his trip to the Aga Khan's private island, which was in a completely illegal buy-off. See, rules for you and me, Canadian citizens, are different for him and his Liberal Party co-conspirators. We're not going to let this happen any longer. And if you do, I'm going to suggest you move to another cut country like Sweden. Okay? Because we don't want laid back, sit down, get rolled over Canadians here anymore. Because we're getting steamrolled. And with my dying breath, I will guarantee to the Canadian people, I will go to the ends of the earth until my last breath to save this country from the tyranny of this government and a takeover from Islam or any other radical ideology. Last I looked, Canada was supposed to be a sovereign nation, one nation under God. So for you who think otherwise, I'm sorry that you do. No. Let's end this up with a little bit here. A couple other items. Mainstream media doesn't like to report truth. So for those of us in the know, I'm going to bring this back out too. Trudeau, his inner circle, his entire inner circle of friends are convicted pedophiles and child pornographers. Okay, his former roommate, Christopher Ingleton, convicted child pornographer. Ben Levin used to teach kids. Convicted pedophile. Interesting that the Trudeau Foundation, and I'm sure a lot of you already know this, the logo for the Trudeau Foundation is pretty much a carbon copy of NAMBLA. And for those of you not familiar with that acronym, NAMBLA stands for the North American Man-Boy Love Association, a pedophile organization. Yes, the Trudeau Foundation's logo is pretty much a carbon copy of that. That's sick. So, let's sum it up like this. Trudeau hates Canada, that's fact. He's been very vocal about that. He's now attempting to buy votes because we're leading up to the October federal election here in Canada. And all those projects that he claimed he was going to say yes to in the pre-election campaign in 2015, as soon as he got in, thrown away. But now, all of a sudden, he sees his popularity has sunk. And it should be sunk. Should be in the negatives by now. But he's trying to buy votes by putting through some of those projects now. Lies are his thing. That will never change. The people that he went to school with, at prep school and high school and so on, can speak to that as much as anybody, who this guy was. He was always thinking he was better than everybody else, but he can never back that up. Because number one, nobody's better than anybody else. We're all human beings. You know? But some of us have a soul, and Justin Trudeau does not. So, this is a partial list of all the treasonous acts that Justin Trudeau and the Liberal Party have perpetrated on us. It's time for Canada's second rebellion. And for those of you who don't know anything about Canada's first rebellion of 1837, here's where we go through the mantra again. Do your own research. Okay? I put out things for you to follow up on because, as always, as much as I'm giving you truthful information, it's just my word from my research. I want you to take action. It's important for you to look into things on your own and form your own opinions and help others in forming proper opinions, not ones based upon lies or hearsay or feelings. Truth is truth. So, all right, time to bring the show to a close, my friends. As always, I'm extremely humbled that you've tuned in to this show and hopefully the others as well, I always ask people, please share, because I'm just one small voice in all of this. I hope that the show continues to grow as it has with every episode. And I want this to go around the world, because not only is this happening in Canada, it's happening around the world. So my heart and my soul goes out to not only all Canadian citizens, but to everyone around the world who's dealing with the kind of things that we're dealing with here. So, let's take back our country. We have the numbers. We have the intelligence. We have the strength. We have a combined love for Canada. That's what makes us Canadians. We're not going to let 183 individuals dictate how our country is going to be turned into a Saul Alinsky welfare state. I won't let it happen, and you better not let it happen. So those patriots out there, thank you for doing what you do every single day, taking action, not hiding behind a closed door. Get a hold of me. Give me suggestions. Tell me how to make the show better. Tell me how to reach the masses better. All this information is so important to get out as soon as possible. So until next time, as always, take care of yourselves. We have a fight on our hands, but we can win this fight. So, whether you're watching this on my website, www.sonatpcpodcast.com, or the YouTube channel, sonatpcpodcast/blog with Rob Adamus, again, I thank you. I'm very humbled by you tuning in. Please share the show. Until next time, God bless.